Good morning. I'm going to give you a walkthrough our book study on this book, Sarah Gives Thanks. So this is the book that we read last year, but I picked it back up because I thought this would be a good book to read again during this time of year. And plus I found a book study companion for this book. So that's why I picked this back up again. So yeah, this is the book, and you can purchase this online or you can borrow it from your local library. And I'm not sure if there's a read aloud on YouTube, but you can also search it on YouTube. So the first thing that we did was actually not reading the book, but we actually did a prediction. So all right, for this activity, for this book study, I actually got a book companion from TPT from Keep Them Thinking by Susan Morrow, if I'm not mistaken. So she has a lot of sheets, a lot of activities, and it's designed for a classroom and also for different levels. So it's a lot. It can be overwhelming. And it doesn't have to be like this for a homeschool setting. But anyway, she has a sheet about predictions and questions. I did not print those out. I just printed the cover, and then since it's a lot of writing, these activities require a lot of writing, and my daughter doesn't have the stamina to write a lot yet, so I did it for her. So before we read the book, she's read it before, so she had a glimpse, an idea about what this book is about, but we made predictions. So she read the book last year, so she doesn't fully remember everything, so we made some predictions. So I asked her, what do you think this book is about based on just the cover alone? And this is what she said, and I recorded that. And then I asked if she had any questions on the cover and what she thought this cover was about, and so I wrote it down for her. And so the worksheets from Susan Morrow from this TPT, they're just worksheets, but I like to make flaps, so I switched them up to flaps like this. So this is the cause and effect. So you have a cause, and you need to come up with what the effect of this cause. So there are about 4 of them, 4 activities. So after that, we did a sorting of facts and opinions. So I printed all the cards and I made a pocket for her to sort. So that's how we sorted our facts and opinion. And also keep in mind, we're using the composition journal, so it's a smaller book than a regular notebook. So if you want to do this and using a composition journal like this, then you need to print it. You need to print these in at 90%. So the next thing that we did was almost like a character analysis, but not quite. So there's a picture of her, and it becomes a flap. Susan Morrow doesn't ask you to do this, but I asked her to make a note about her physical appearance, and then there's also an activity to make a poem about Sarah Hill. So there's a prompt. I am, so you fill it in, what she was, and so forth and so on. So some of these can be interesting. The next thing that we did was comparing and contrasting. Once again, this was not a flap, but I made it into a flap. So we talk about the difference, the similarities between Sarah Hale and my daughter, and we wrote it down. And then we talk about what's different between Sarah Hale and her. And then there's this walk in the footsteps of Sarah Hale. It is a flap, so you can add as many foot as you want, and we wrote down the important events in her life. Since I didn't want her to do too much thinking, I guess she's only 6 at this point, so I just printed 3 feet. And then the next thing that we did was comprehension questions. I made this into a flap, and there's a lot of questions, so I just picked 8, and I wrote down the answer under the card. And then there's also a list of vocabulary word. It's a long list. The definition is not provided, and it's okay, but since I didn't want her to go through all of that, that's a little bit too much, so I just asked her to pick 2 words that she's not familiar with, and I wanted her to look it up in the dictionary, which she did, and then she wrote it down here. So this is the only part she wrote down with her own handwriting. And then the next things that we did, these are the things that I could not make into a flap, so I printed at 90% and I just stapled them and I glue it on one of the pages. So we did story map, and so we did summary using someone wanted but so method. And then we made some connection by asking her what would be her goal, since Sarah Hale's goal was to make Thanksgiving a national holiday. So we made the story a little bit more personal. And then this is something new. This is we have never discussed this before, so I had to do a lot of prompting. So theme, as soon as I gave her an example, she was able to come up with her own. So the theme number 1 is thankfulness, and theme number 2 is determination, and she was able to come up with these things with some help. So that's a quick walkthrough of what we did for this book for Thanksgiving. And I hope if you want to join us or want to do this activity also, I'll leave the link and to the book companion somewhere, so you can also access it and do this book just right before Thanksgiving. Just keep in mind that there are some people that might have the same idea locally, so that they may have borrowed this book from the library, from your local library. So if you want to grab this book, you might want to grab it quickly. All right, so that's all I have for you today, and that's our book study. I hope that was helpful and a blessing to you. Have a good day.